June 25th, 1876, the Little Bighorn River. Dust chokes the air. The screams of dying men are drowned by the thunder of thousands of hooves. Lieutenant Charles DeRudio, the arrogant Italian nobleman his fellow officers called Count No Account, watches in horror as Custer's entire command is slaughtered around him. Bullets rip through the grass. Arrows blot out the sun. In minutes, 268 men will be dead. DeRudio knows he's next. His horse is shot. He's alone. 300 Sioux warriors are just 50 yards away, and they see him. Yet Charles DeRudio did not die that day. Instead, he crawled into hell. He hid inches from squaws, scalping a soldier still alive. He smothered wildfire with his bare hands as it closed in on his hiding place. He watched warriors parade in the uniforms of his dead comrades and made a mistake that should have doomed him. Shouting, "Tom, don't leave us here," to warriors disguised as cavalry, drawing 400 guns on himself. 36 hours, no water, no food, surrounded, burning, betrayed by his own reputation. This is the true story of how the most despised officer in Custer's command defied annihilation, crawling through massacre, fire, and impossible odds to become one of the only survivors of Custer's last stand. This is how Count No Account cheated death itself. His own words reveal the nightmare. Strap in. You won't believe what happened next. Charles DeRudio, an Italian nobleman and professional U.S. Army officer, served with the 7th U.S. Cavalry during the Battle of Little Bighorn. Captain Frederick Benteen dubbed him Count No Account because of his arrogant demeanor and boastful tales. Though promoted to first lieutenant on December 15, 1875, DeRudio was unpopular with Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer and other senior commanders, despite being a capable officer. DeRudio survived the battle and later documented his ordeal in a letter. "I barely escaped death at Little Bighorn on June 25, 26th, and now recount my terrifying direct experience. Around 10 a.m. on June 25th, General Custer's scouts returned with alarming intelligence. They had located an Indian village roughly 15 miles distant, positioned along the Little Bighorn. The scouts noted the Indians seemed to be withdrawing from our approach. We advanced another 2 or 3 miles before General Custer halted to plan our attack. He directed Companies H, D, and K under Colonel F. W. Benteen to secure our left flank, explicitly ordering them to clear all opposition. Companies M and G, led by Colonel Reno, and where I was temporarily assigned to Company A, occupied the center. General Custer personally commanded Companies E, I, F, L, and C on the attack's right flank, while Company B guarded the pack train. After marching several more miles, our center unit was ordered to trot and maintain speed until reaching the river 6 or 7 miles ahead. Upon arrival, we forded it and emerged onto the plains beyond, where we were directed to form a battle line. With orders issued, we charged at a gallop, chasing the foe through a thick, vision-obscuring dust cloud raised by the retreating Indians. The dust proved so dense visibility neared zero, forcing Colonel Reno to stop the battalion. After dismounting, Reno rapidly deployed a skirmish line, anchoring the right flank along a dry, thickly wooded creek. As horses were taken to woodland shelter, Indians launched a fierce attack met by our immediate return fire. This skirmish persisted approximately 30 minutes. It was then discovered that across the creek, in a park-like clearing, stood several lodges. Our entire line crossed the creek, finding the lodges vacant, only to confront about 200 howling warriors. Overwhelming fire from this larger force made retreat nearly impossible as we became encircled. Entering combat with only 100 men, relentless enemy fire devastated our small group. While crossing the creek, positioned at the rear, I noticed an abandoned guillaume and returned to retrieve it. Maneuvering through the woods, the guillaume snagged on branches and slipped from my hand. Dismounting to recover it, I led my horse to the creek's south bank. Just as I prepared to mount, a bullet hit my horse, causing it to panic and bolt into Indian lines, leaving me stranded with roughly 300 Sioux just 50 yards distant. They unleashed a whistling volley at me, yet miraculously, I remained unharmed. I escaped into a nearby thicket where I could defend myself and negotiate survival. There I encountered interpreter Fred Gerard and Private Thomas F. O'Neill of Company G, 7th Cavalry. Gerard and O'Neill had horses, while I, like O'Neill, was afoot. I proposed the horses might reveal our position and suggested stampeding them, but they refused. Leaving them, I crawled through dense undergrowth into the creek's deep, dry bed, hoping to remain concealed until nightfall for a stealthy return to command. After 10 tense minutes hiding, I heard pistol shots nearby, followed by squaws' eerie voices. Cautiously lifting my head, I saw these women scalping a soldier possibly still alive. Two focused on cutting, while others danced a war dance around the victim and mutilators. The horror of this repugnant sight defies description. Eventually, the women departed, likely seeking more victims, allowing me to consider my peril. While wrestling with my thoughts, I detected a crackling sound nearby. Investigating, I realized it came from burning wood ignited by Indians. Exceptionally dry timber caused flames to spread rapidly, forcing me to abandon my creek hiding spot. I crawled out using my entry path. As I neared the bank, I heard a voice calling, "Lieutenant! Lieutenant!" Though seeing no one, the call continued. Advancing a few yards toward the voice, I found the entire group I'd left earlier, concealed in the creek bottom. Mr. Gerard stated he'd left the horses tied where I saw them and followed me down. Like me, the group worried about the approaching fire. Fortunately, the wind died and light rain fell, halting the flames and renewing our hope of hiding until dark. It was now 3 p.m. We faced 6 long hours. Throughout, we heard and sometimes glimpsed Indians nearby, their voices unnervingly close. Words failed to capture my torrent of thoughts during those suspense-filled hours. Finally, night arrived under heavy cloud cover, granting needed concealment. We emerged from hiding toward the ford, 2 miles south across open ground. Mr. Gerard and the scout rode. The soldier and I each grasped a horse's tail. Guiding us through darkness, Mr. Gerard stated if forced to flee without us, he'd inform Colonel Reno of our location to ensure rescue. Battle sounds echoed from the hills above, sustained musketry, our comrades' cheers and Native Americans' shouts. Our spirits rose recognizing our comrades' cheer, but fell seeing our woodland refuge aflame, forcing relocation. We crawled nearly to the woodland edge when noticing adversaries had ignited both sides. We maneuvered until finding a dense mulberry tree cluster and crept underneath. Fringe grass was very green from recent drizzle. No wind blew. As fire neared our hideout, it spread slowly, letting me smother it with gauntlet gloves. Fire around us burned down, leaving us in a small, safe zone. Surrounded by fire, it shielded us externally. We saw everything unseen. We watched Native Americans moving. One stood guard 70 to 80 yards off, watching the flames. At 4 p.m., he fired 4 shots skyward, which I took as a signal. Then we heard a Native American shouting loudly, repeating the sound 4 times. After these signals, over 200 Native Americans departed, crossing the river. An hour later, identical signals repeated. Many more rode away mounted. Soon the remainder left too. Hope returned. Constant gunfire slackened, with only occasional distant shots. By 6 p.m., surroundings seemed peaceful. No Native Americans nearby. We assumed the regiment had quit the field. We merely awaited nightfall to cross the river toward Yellowstone River. There we planned building a raft to float to Powder River, where our supply camp stood. We endured 36 hours without water or food. At 8 p.m., we waded across the river twice and climbed the bluffs, carefully choosing direction. We advanced slowly and cautiously, covering 2 miles before I ascended a high hill to scout for our command. I spotted a fire roughly 2 miles off, toward where we believed our command fought. We questioned if it was Native American or our command's fire. We resolved to approach warily and investigate. Descending the hill, we headed toward the fire, climbing hills and halting to listen, progressing over a mile. Reaching another hilltop, we paused and listened again. We discerned voices too faint to identify as Native American or our command. Moving closer, we heard a mule bray, followed by a sentry's familiar challenge. "Halt! Who goes there?" The challenge wasn't for us, being distant and hidden in darkness, but it gave confidence to proceed cautiously, still fearing Native American encounters. About 200 yards from the fire, I yelled, "Picket, don't fire! It's Lieutenant DeRudio and Private O'Neill," and ran toward them. Our announcement drew a loud cheer from the picket and Lieutenant Varnum. Lieutenant Varnum, a brave and efficient officer, rushed to me, elated I lived as he'd presumed me dead. I inquired about the regiment, hoping we were sole casualties, but that hope proved fleeting. Lieutenant Varnum stated he knew nothing of Custer's 5 companies and that our command had lost Lieutenants McIntosh and Hodgson. I reached camp around 2 a.m. Exhausted from 2 sleepless nights, I conversed with Lieutenant Varnum about the battle, sharing my narrow escapes. Morning arrived swiftly. I met officers to report the Native Americans' departure. At 8 a.m., we observed cavalry approaching, first scouts, then a large column. We soon recognized General Brisbane's command arriving to relieve us. Later, a long infantry line appeared on the plain. General Gibbon arrived. Those bluecoats stirred deep emotion. When Generals Gibbon and Terry entered our camp, grown men wept like children. I must acknowledge Private O'Neill's steadfastness and courage. He obeyed my orders and stood by me like a brother. I'll forever remember him and his invaluable service during our shared peril. This brave soldier is esteemed by his company commander and will eternally have my gratitude and my comrades. Charles C. DeRudio.